Hello, this is Eli. Welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to talk about what a class is. What is a class? In order to talk about a class, we have to consider that we're talking about object-oriented programming. So, although it's called object-oriented programming, object-oriented, it's really all about classes. So, a class is actually a blueprint. You can think of a class as a blueprint. And a blueprint is going to describe an object. Think about a house blueprint. You can look at it and an experienced builder is going to be able to look at it and determine exactly how to build a house. It contains what that house is going to look like, the dimensions, the features in that house, what it's going to have. So if we apply that same thinking to object-oriented programming, a class is going to describe an object. So a blueprint is not an actual house. You can't live in a blueprint. You can't use the kitchen in a blueprint. So a blueprint is not a house. And just like you can build many homes from a blueprint, um, you can actually build many objects from a class. So a class is like a blueprint. A class isn't the actual object. It's just going to describe what the object is, what it looks like, and what it can do. So you can think of an object is like an executable. It's the manifestation of the class. It's the thing that will actually do something. When we're thinking about classes, we're thinking in terms of how we classify objects in our world, or how we classify objects in a software application. So, as I said, a class is going to tell us a few things about that object. So, a class is going to have three parts: a name, and it's going to have attributes. These attributes are going to describe what the object has and what it looks like. And then the class is going to have behaviors. The behaviors describe what that object can do. What functions will it perform? In information technology, classes are represented by a class diagram. And a class diagram has these same three sections. It's going to have a name, the attributes that describe it, and then the behaviors. So this class is named student. And each student is going to have a name, a student ID, age, social security number, phone number, email address, at least one course, and a GPA. And every student will be able to register, drop, attend a class, join a club, complete a course, and attend a game. So this represents what a student will look like and what a student can do. But it's not the actual student. It's just a blueprint of the student. So when we create a student, we call that instantiating. We create an instance of the student. So I'm going to scroll down. Here, again, we have a student, and on the left, the student is the class. And the student has some attributes and some different attributes here and some different behaviors. But again, the student is the blueprint. And here's those three sections: the name of the class, the attributes, and the behaviors. But when we can create an instance of this student or an instance of this class, and now we have objects. So the objects are going to contain the actual information. It's going to be an actual student. So now the student has an actual name, has student ID, And again, we can have several objects, hundreds of objects, if we want, based on one student class. So as I was saying, a class diagram is what we use to depict a class. A class diagram is supposed to follow industry standards. You should be able to go into any company and they'll hand you a class diagram and you should be able to read it. Now, this is not, what I have here is not everything you may see in a class diagram. This is kind of really a generic, really scaled down version. Here's another class diagram named customer. And again, this customer has attributes and it has behaviors. Here's another class diagram named button, like a button you would click on in a software application. So this button will have a label, a color, a height, width. It can have whether or not it's hidden or it's clickable. And the behaviors, you can click the button, you can move the button. So a class is a blueprint and it describes an object. Thank you for joining me.